Welcome, brave souls. If you love mystery, horror, and the unknown, make sure to subscribe and like this video. It keeps the darkness whispering more secrets. Now, turn off the lights, take a deep breath, and let's dive into today's chilling story.
Deep in the heart of towering, unforgiving mountains lies a forgotten village called Shadowmount. Few dared approach it, and even fewer returned. The villagers of nearby towns whispered stories of curses and vanished souls, warning outsiders to stay away. They said the night there held secrets darker than the thickest shadows, and that those who entered rarely left unchanged if they left at all. One day, a young man named Ethan, from a neighboring village, set out to find his grandfather who had disappeared years ago without a trace. The journey was grueling, climbing jagged cliffs, pushing through dense forests where sunlight barely touched the ground. When Ethan finally reached the village entrance, it was as if time had stopped. The houses stood broken and abandoned, doors hanging on rusty hinges, windows shattered like cracked mirrors. A cold feeling crept over him, as if unseen eyes followed his every step. Entering his grandfather's old home, Ethan found a dusty table with a curious symbol etched on a scrap of paper, intricate circle entwined with strange lines. As dusk fell, the sun vanished behind the jagged peaks, plunging the village into an unnatural darkness. The moon rose crimson, bleeding red light across the sky like a warning. That night, eerie noises filled the air knocks on rotting doors, soft whispers carried by the wind that seemed to speak from beyond. Ethan sought answers and met an old woman who spoke of the village's curse and restless spirits bound to the mountain. "If you want the truth, you must enter the cave behind the village," she said with a grave voice. "There, where the shadows begin, lies the secret of Shadowmount." Ethan ventured into the cave, its walls glistening with ancient carvings. Each footstep echoed like a drumbeat of dread. Whispers in forgotten tongues surrounded him. Shadows danced just beyond his vision. Deep inside, he found a small chamber carved from stone, holding an ancient dusty tome. As he read, Ethan learned of old rituals once performed to protect the village from a dark force buried beneath the mountain. The rituals had failed, unleashing a cursed power that trapped the villagers' souls, condemning them to guard the village eternally, never to leave. Suddenly a voice called his name, his grandfather's voice mixed with agonized screams. Ethan followed the sound to find his grandfather trapped inside a swirling vortex of shadows, refusing to release him. Desperate, Ethan tried to use the book to break the curse, but he lacked knowledge of the full ritual. The shadows clawed at Ethan. The village seemed to pulse like a living beast, and the mountains breathed a low, terrifying growl. Returning to the old woman, Ethan received cryptic symbols and warnings needed to save his grandfather and break the curse. But the price to pay would be far greater than he imagined. Ethan did not sleep that night. The old woman's hut creaked with every breath of the mountain wind. On the floor before him lay the strange symbols she had given him, drawn in charcoal and marked with small bones. "You must complete the ritual at the heart of the village," she whispered, "or you will become one of them." She meant the shadows, the cursed villagers, the lost. Before sunrise, Ethan took the book, the symbols, and a small flickering lantern, and made his way to the village square. At the center of the square stood a withered tree, black as coal, leafless, and split down the trunk. Beneath it, the earth was cracked and stained dark, as if something had bled into the soil and never left. Ethan placed the symbols around the tree in a precise pattern, just as the woman instructed. As he began to read from the book, the air thickened. The ground trembled. From the houses around him, doors creaked open not by wind, but by will. Figures began to emerge. Dozens, pale, hollow-eyed, silent. Their feet scraped the stone, their heads twitching in odd, inhuman angles. They formed a circle around him, watching, waiting. Ethan kept reading, but the words twisted on the page, shifting into languages his mind rejected. His nose began to bleed, his hands shook. Then came the scream, split the sky open like thunder. It didn't come from one voice, but hundreds. From above, from below, from inside his own skull. Ethan fell to his knees. Shadows lunged toward him, grabbed his arms, his neck, his soul. But in the center of the chaos, the ground cracked open. A spiral of light and smoke burst from the soil under the tree. and in that light his grandfather appeared. But it wasn't him. Not anymore. The figure wore his grandfather's face, but the skin was stretched tight, the eyes were pitch black, and the mouth hung too wide. "You should not have come, Ethan," it said in a voice made of ash. "Now you've brought the door open again." The ritual had worked, but not the way he hoped. Instead of releasing the trapped souls, he had summoned the ancient force that once cursed the village. The tree burst into flames, but the fire was cold. The cursed villagers began to rise, floating above the ground, their mouths stretching open in silent screams. Ethan tried to run, but his feet sank into the ground like tar. His body twisted with each step. The shadows followed him, whispering secrets, promising him a way out. If he let them in, he stumbled into his grandfather's house, slamming the door behind him, only to find it no longer resembled a house. The walls pulsed, breathing, covered in hundreds of human eyes. The floor was alive. The furniture was gone. Instead, dozens of hands reached from the walls, grabbing, pulling. He fell to the floor. The book had vanished. His lantern flickered, then died. Darkness swallowed everything. That's when he heard the knock. It was just one, slow, heavy, from inside the house. He turned. Behind him stood the thing wearing his grandfather's skin. It smiled with that impossible mouth. "There is no leaving Shadowmount," it said. "It's not for you. It's not for anyone." Ethan didn't scream. Couldn't. His voice was gone, stolen the moment the door knocked from the inside. The thing wearing his grandfather's face stood only a few feet away, grinning with lips that tore upward into its cheeks like split leather. Its eyes weren't just black, they were hollow, infinite, as if staring into them would pull you through time itself. "You opened the wound," it whispered. "Now it bleeds." The house began to shrink. Not collapse shrink. The walls folded inward like paper. The ceiling pressed down. And yet the space inside grew darker, colder, endless. Ethan ran not toward the door, but into the hallway that shouldn't have been there. The hallway extended far too long for the size of the house. Every step he took echoed like footsteps in an empty cathedral. Shadows dripped from the ceiling like wet ink. He passed doors on either side, each one carved with strange moving symbols. From behind each door came noises, some screaming, some whispering his name. Then, a child's laughter. It stopped him cold, a tiny giggle echoing down the corridor. Familiar, it sounded like him. Younger, he turned around, no one. Then again, "Ethan, come play," it came from the last door on the left. Against all reason, he opened it. Inside was a bedroom, his childhood bedroom, perfect, untouched. The posters on the wall, creaky bed, the wooden floor, the same scratch he remembered from falling once when he was 7. "This isn't real," he muttered. "It's memory." But something was wrong with the mirror. His reflection wasn't moving. In fact, it was staring at him, judging him. Its smile slowly widened. Ethan's real mouth stayed shut. The reflection raised its hand and scratched its own face open. Blood poured from the mirror. The walls melted. The illusion burned away, and Ethan was back in the hallway, but not alone anymore. The corridor was full. Dozens of figures, all versions of himself. Each broken in a different way, missing eyes, twisted necks, burned skin, mouths sewn shut. Each one stared at him. They began to move. He ran no direction, just away. The corridor never ended. The house never ended. Shadowmount never ended. Until ... silence. Suddenly he was outside. Morning light pierced the fog. Birds chirped. The village looked alive. Not vibrant, but not dead. The tree was gone. The shadows were gone. The air smelled of ash and pine. Ethan blinked. Was it over? He walked toward the edge of the village. That's when he saw it. A group of people, tourists, hikers. They were walking toward the village entrance, laughing, pointing, unaware. He ran to them, shouting, "Don't go in! Don't come near this place!" But they didn't see him. They walked right through him. One of them stopped, looked around confused, then whispered, "Did you feel that? Like cold air?" They kept walking. Ethan stood frozen. He looked down at his hands. They were fading, transparent. He tried to scream, but no sound came. Shadowmount had taken him, not his body, his presence, his soul. He was now part of it. A whisper in the wind. A shadow in the hallway. Knock on the door. The next time someone came searching for answers, they would meet him. And he would smile, just like the thing that wore his grandfather's face. Because no one ever leaves Shadowmount. Not for real. Not ever. Ethan no longer felt time. He had no heartbeat, no breath, no hunger, only awareness. He drifted in the air of Shadowmount, a thought with eyes, a shadow with memory. But something had changed. The village was waking up. Beneath the cracked stones and forgotten bones, something was stirring. Ethan could feel it, not through touch, but through the scream that never left his mind. One night something new arrived. A storm, not rain, not lightning. A storm of silence. The sky went black, without clouds. The trees stopped moving. The insects vanished. Even the cursed souls of Shadowmount froze in place. Then came the voice. It wasn't heard through ears. It was remembered. Ethan hadn't heard that voice since he was a child. His mother long dead. Come deeper, it said, below the roots. He didn't understand until the ground itself opened. A chasm split the village square in half, not violently, softly like paper tearing underwater. From its depths rose stairs made of bone and mud, glowing faintly with green veins pulsing like arteries. Ethan was pulled downward. At the bottom, he found the truth. A temple, older than the mountain itself. Walls carved in languages no human tongue could speak. Statues that bled black ichor from stone eyes. Candles made of teeth. A shrine in the center, a tall obsidian obelisk wrapped in chains made of vertebrae. Around it, symbols glowed. The same ones Ethan saw in the book, in the house, in the mirror, and beneath the shrine, a heartbeat. He felt it more than heard it. Boom, boom, boom. It had never stopped. This was the heart of Shadowmount, not a village, not a place, but a seal. A prison. Ethan floated forward. He did not mean to. He could not resist. He touched the obelisk. Everything changed. He saw it. The first ritual. Centuries ago, before the village, before the name, a group of beings, not human, not God, descended from the void between stars. They fed not on blood, but on memory. They devoured identity, erased entire souls. The mountain was their feeding ground, but they were trapped. Sealed by ancient rites, bound beneath stone and symbol, Shadowmount was built to keep the seal alive, not to protect the world, but to contain the rot. Ethan screamed, but there was no sound in that place. His mind cracked, and through the crack, something slipped in. A whisper, "You are the last piece." The obelisk shattered. Above, the ground trembled. The houses collapsed. The sky turned upside down. The people walking toward the village, those tourists, they froze in time, their eyes bleeding shadow. And from the chasm, something rose. It didn't have a shape. It didn't need one. It was hunger. It was forgetting. Cloud of thoughts no longer thought. Faces blurred. Names lost. Time warped. The villagers' ghosts evaporated. Ethan's form dissolved. But he was smiling, because now he remembered. He remembered everything. And that meant he was becoming it. The new guardian? No, the new wound. Shadowmount still stands. The village remains. But now it moves. Sometimes it appears in other mountains. Sometimes in dreams. Sometimes behind your home. Sometimes, if you listen at night, you'll hear it. A knock. Then a whisper. Come deeper. They came in a group of 7. Young, adventurous, naive, backpackers, chasing legends. Following GPS coordinates and old Reddit threads. The stories about Shadowmount weren't on any official maps, but they'd found them anyway, through whispers, old photos, dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum, strange testimonials with missing comment sections. At the edge of the forest, the air changed. It always did. The letter Jordan, tall and sarcastic, laughed it off. Just fog, he said, just altitude. But they all felt it. The cold in their lungs wasn't weather. The silence in the forest wasn't peace. Even the birds had stopped singing. By the time they saw the first rooftops of the village, something inside each of them had already cracked. The houses were there, broken, burnt, but not abandoned. Everything was waiting. One of them, Mia, pointed at the large crack in the center of the village now, sealed by twisted black roots and dried blood. "Is this where the ground split?" "How would you know that?" asked Devon. But Mia didn't answer. She didn't remember saying it. The others didn't notice her shadow had stopped following her. That night, they set up camp just outside the village limits. But one by one, they started waking up to sounds that shouldn't exist. A knock on the side of the tent.
Ah!
A soft voice whispering their names. A baby's cry. The sound of footsteps inside a zipped tent. By morning, 2 of them were gone. No blood, no tracks, just gone. The rest panicked, tried to leave, but the road was gone, literally. Trees had grown over it, not in hours but in decades. Thick trunks, moss-covered stones, rusted signs that hadn't been there yesterday. As if time had folded in on itself while they slept. Panic turned to blame, then fear, then the dreams began. Not nightmares' memories, but not theirs. One dreamed of burning churches. Another saw herself giving birth in a mirror. Jordan dreamt he was tied to a chair in a room filled with copies of himself, each one missing something ice, lips, tongues. When he woke up, his own mouth wouldn't move. He screamed silently until his veins burst. That left 4. By then, they had all started seeing him, Ethan. But he didn't look like he used to. His face was now many faces. His voice was many voices. He moved like smoke. He offered no threat, just a choice. Open the door, or stay and rot. Mia opened it. The others begged her not to. But she walked straight into the old chapel at the center of the village where the obelisk used to be. Now, there was a hole, pit, black, bottomless, and singing. Yes, singing. Voices layered over voices, humming a song that made your bones itch and your teeth loosen. Mia jumped in. The others followed not by choice, but by gravity. The moment their feet left the chapel floor, they were no longer part of the world. They fell and fell and fell. Each second stretched for hours. Each thought peeled from their minds and devoured by the thing at the center of the pit. Then silence, eternal. Weeks later, hikers in a nearby region of Austria reported something strange. A new village. Not on any map. Shrouded in fog. Old, yet untouched. In its center, a twisted tree, and under it, ... a small wooden sign. Burned into the wood, Shadowmount welcomes you. And at the edge of the path, a young woman stood. Her name tag read, Mia. She smiled at the tourists. And behind her, something knocked once on the inside of a chapel door that had no handle.